So we're living in a time where, you know, unemployment is a real issue. Things are more expensive. Gas is $4 or $5 in some places. But I would think that the good news is that if you can commit to these four principles in what you do, you'll have a better life. Because even if you don't get the job, you don't get the job because, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is that I would much rather not get the gig and be prepared and know that I was at my best than not get the gig because I failed in one of these areas.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So sometimes young people have the end goal of the job. Well, I didn't get the job, so I'm down or I'm sad because I didn't get the job. Well, okay, the human thing is, yeah, you want the job, you need a job, you didn't get the job, that's good. But if you commit to these principles, you'll eventually be in a position where you'll be successful.
You will.
You will be. These can't fail. You can't fail.
Not in the long term.
Not in the long run. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and the other thing is, you'll get the gig when it's the right gig.
Exactly. Exactly.
And if you don't get the gig,
that wasn't your plan.
It.
That wasn't your plan.
I firmly believe that with all my
Absolutely.
heart, soul, and being.
Absolutely. You know, I listen to Tavis Smiley. He does that talk show, and I can podcast him. And Tavis is on the West Coast. He said when he was 26 years old, he just wrote a book that actually is kind of interesting. I'm thinking about buying it. I think it's called Failing Your Way Up. Talking about 20 things that he did that were failures that actually spurred him into success. And he's making the point that you actually learn more from the failure than you do usually from the success.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
And so we listed as well. But one story he tells us that when he was 26 years old, this wasn't necessarily a failure, but it was just interesting. So he was 26, he was offered a job doing news on TV. So he's this kid, 26 years old, being offered a job to do TV. He turned it down. All his friends says, wow, you're a fool. And he said, I don't know anything about TV. I don't think I'm ready for TV. So instead of taking the job, he hooked up with a friend of his in Canada who ran a TV station up there. And he said he did everything for the television station in Canada. He ran the cameras, he ran a teleprompter, he wrote copy, he was in front of the camera, he was behind the camera. He got lunch, he ate lunch, he did like everything that you could do. He came back to LA a year later, the job was still available. They offered him the job, and day one for his interview behind the camera, he nailed it, and the boss said, I don't need to see anybody else, this is the guy.
Wow.
And he's convinced that that happened because he took the time to be prepared.
Right.
He's convinced that if he had taken the job a year before, he wouldn't have survived. Isn't that interesting? And I think that's so true.
And that's knowing yourself and knowing when your product or service that you have to sell is ready or not ready.
Right. Right.
And because in everyday life, in business and personal relationships, no matter what we do, what are we selling? We're selling ourselves.
Right. Right.
That's all we have to offer anybody.
That's all we got.
Ourselves.
That's all we got. And that's enough.
It is.
That should be enough.
It is. And having that self, that prepared self, okay, enables you to go out and properly present a product or service that you believe in.